Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with a big opinion here. Let me get the sink faucet out of the way. So, today's video, it's gonna be very simple, but I thought I would write down some numbers. That way, for all the people that, kind of need to, have a goal, have a list that they can, strive to get to. It'll help those kind of people out. I know it helps me out when it comes to prepping. Uh, but today, I'm bringing up physical fitness again. I've been making shorts where during my conference at work, I just knock out as many push ups as I can do, just rapid pumping them out. Uh, not striving for a certain amount. Um, some days, I think the first day I did 45, and then one day I did 30, and one day I did 40. And it's kind of based off of, my workout and, what I did that day. Uh, but I think working out is, you know, it's a budget prepper thing. It's also, just if you start prepping, it should be something that you should start doing. I'm in no way, a physical trainer. I don't take my shirt off and look like a Greek god or anything. But I also don't look like, a large thing of fat that physically can't take care of myself. So, at the most basic level, you should be getting 20 to 30 minutes of a increased heart rate 3 times a week. And, you start at that level because people always have their excuses of, work, family life, just, busy, whatever. Uh, you know, I'm making this video half an hour for midnight. I had to wait to have my kid go to bed before I could, really focus on working out and getting that done. So, if it's something that you really care about, then you are going to find and make time. I do the push ups during my conference at work. It takes 90 seconds out of my conference. It's not going to hurt my work. It's not going to, affect the students that I'm teaching or whatever. But it really has made a difference. And then at home, it could be going on a walk with my ruck on. It's lifting weights. It's, I counted all the work I did in my backyard to clean it up because, we've got prickly vines growing everywhere all of a sudden. And, my heart rate was elevated over 130 beats for over half an hour, pulling weeds and, burning them and bagging stuff up. So, if you are kind of already getting that at work, then you should maybe strive for a little bit more. I think the working out aspect is very, very addictive. Once you start to see results, you want to see results quicker and quicker. And now instead of doing 3 30-minute sessions, now you're doing 4 30-minute sessions. Well, maybe you can't bump that up to 5, so now you're doing a 45-minute session. And, at some point, you hit your happy point where that is a part of your schedule. You're not going to cancel it to do other things. You're going to work those other things around it. And so it's a mindset. But starting 3 days a week, you are probably doing more than about 65% of Americans. Some of the things that I say that you should incorporate into that is you should figure out how many push-ups you can do in 1 minute. How fast can you run a mile? How many sit-ups can you do in a minute? You can throw in pull-ups, figuring out the maximum weight that you can squat. That's really a bare minimum. And whatever your starting point is, 6 months out, you can do it a month out. But if you're doing 15 push-ups in 1 minute, then you're going to start doing push-ups in your workout. And by doing that action more and more and pushing yourself further, your numbers should start to go up. At some point, you will hit a plateau with that. You might not see weight loss. You might not see muscle growth. That's where you throw in variance. You start to add weight. You do something to make it more challenging. But push-ups are a pretty solid all-around workout. It's working your core. It's working your upper body. The running, mostly about cardio. Believe it or not, your lungs and your heart can be worked out like every other muscle in your body. So even if you're at a 12-minute mile, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. You will hit a plateau point. None of us are going to be breaking Olympic records. And same thing with those other things. Now, the numbers that I say, that's coming from someone who's almost 30, and male and 5'2". So I think as long as you're under the age of 50, you should be doing a 9-minute mile or faster mile. If your times are improving and it's higher than that, then you're working towards that goal. Sweet. If you're doing a 12-minute mile and 6 months before that you're doing a 12.5-minute mile, there's improvement. Don't dog yourself. If you have to work into running by doing rowing or cycling or swimming, that's fine too. Anything that is making you breathe harder, make your heart pump faster, is going to help out. On the push-ups, I say it's 25, and that's under 50. On the sit-ups, I say it's 30, and that's under 50. Once you reach those points, then you should be striving for much greater. Like perfect performance, you're doing a sub 6-minute mile. You're doing about 60 push-ups. And you're doing about 55 sit-ups. That is, peak level. The only way that you're getting faster than that is trying to break some Olympic record. And, there's some form of sacrifice, and, that's the range that we should be falling in. Obviously, if you hit a plateau of you're doing 45 sit-ups in that minute, start timing yourself for 2 minutes. Bump your number up to your goal is now 75. Same thing with the push-ups. Let's say, you hit the 60 push-ups. It's almost physically impossible to get much higher than that. Yes, it's been done. There are some very, very strong people. I think in my first couple of years in the Army, I think I was doing like 63 or 64 in the first minute. And then I'd hit my, 72 and stop. Then start incorporating weight. You would be very surprised what the weight of a textbook, what the weight of a 10-pound dumbbell, anything that you can attach to your back, lay on your back, how much more it makes you push. Use ChatGPT, help it make a workout plan. use the rest of the internet. I could type into YouTube and probably find 1,000 workout videos, and probably half of them are a pretty decent workout. They write, you know, health magazine articles about this stuff all the time. And this can be done on the very, very cheap, where, as long as you got shorts, t-shirt, and a pair of running shoes, you can get a lot accomplished. You can spend a hefty chunk of money like I did. Let's see if I get this pin. Yeah, it's all that right there. I don't know if I showed the power rack setup out here as well. But I got this multi-function home gym thing set up, and then I set up the power rack so I can do pull-ups. I've got an Olympic bar. It's nothing special. I think I got it at Academy for like $80. I only have the one set of 25 rubber plates, and then I have 10-pound weight, or 4 10-pound weights, and 4 2.5-pound weights. And then this I found on the side of the road. I covered it with a blanket because it was kind of torn up, but this one adjusts so it can sit all the way up. It doesn't go into a decline, but it does lay perfectly flat. I've got it set up in a incline right now, because that's the last kind of workout that I did. Oh, hey, I've been looking for this. When I built this machine, I did it over a couple of days. I didn't know where that was, because this is the hook that hooks into the weights in the back. Here, let me set you down real quick. And I couldn't find it. I was kind of upset because, I couldn't do any weight. And so I cut this little piece of metal. It originally went to a car jack stand, but it was like you twist it up, and I didn't want to do that, so I used a drill gun. But all of that I pieced together. The power rack, I spent $100 on Facebook Marketplace. The bench, I was able to find that. I did have just a flat, regular old bench that I spent like $25 on, and then I sold it for $25 to someone else on Facebook Marketplace. Once I got my upgrade. So the workout equipment can be put together, kind of piecemeal. When I was buying my dumbbells, I was buying them one at a time because that's what I could afford. But there's plenty of body weight stuff that you can do. Being physically fit it's going to make your life longer. The science and the doctors and the studies have shown that. It's going to make you enjoy life more. And it's going to cause less problems. I put on a pretty significant amount of weight, was diagnosed with diabetes, and when I dropped 54 pounds, a lot of the problems went away. Diet and exercise helped a ton. I was taking like 5 or 6 different medicines, and now I take one pill, and it's mostly as a precaution. So, if you have health problems, I'm not, claiming it's gonna fix anything. But typically, being a healthier weight, it does help with a lot of those things. When the crap hits the fan, whether it's you're evacuating because of a hurricane, a zombie apocalypse happens or World War III happens, uh, the stronger and fitter that you are, the more capable of a person that you are. There's a decent amount of, skills and crafts that you learn, in prepping. And a lot of it involves physical fitness. It involves physically doing something because in a lot of ways, you know, I can pull this string, light turns on. It's very dim light. It's not a good kitchen light. But crap hits the fan. Now you're having to use firewood. You have to chop and source that firewood for light. You're, using some sort of wax or fat or lard or whatever to make candles. There's a physical aspect to that. Your water. That's a very simple task to do. Turn the faucet on, water comes out. I should actually probably drink some more water. But it's nice. I turn the faucet on, I pay the $25 a month or whatever for water. Clean drinking water. Something bad goes down. I have a 55-gallon bucket for rain catchment that goes into the wife's garden. There would be some setup involved, and it would be lugging that water inside, running it through some sort of filter and boiling it, which more firewood, lugging the water. If you've ever carried a 5-gallon water container, it sucks. It's 40 pounds. It really sucks only carrying one because you've got this weird awkward limp going on and you're kind of trying to compensate and hold it off to your side so it's not bumping into you. So it works out really great to counterbalance that with a second one. Now you're carrying 80 pounds. For someone like me, I'm only 55 pounds heavier than that. That's over half of my body weight in 10 gallons of water. That conservatively, dire situations is 10 days worth of water. Realistically, 2 or 3. So you're having to do that probably multiple times a day. If I was filling up my bathtub, I'd have to make that trip 6 times. I think my bathtub's 60 gallons. That wouldn't be fun. You're carrying 8 pounds of water to flush your toilet. You're carrying a couple of pounds to make dinner and clean the dishes. You're carrying another 24 pounds for drinking water for 3 people for one day. It adds up. So that's all my reasons for why you should be physically fit. Let me know in the comment section down below a workout that you do. I'll try it out. I'll see if I can record it. Ask your questions. We're a growing channel. I'm trying to be here to teach you something, better inform you. So, I'll answer your questions. I might turn it into a video. I might just answer the question. Subscribe to the channel and share it with every single person you know. Let's set a goal of hitting that 1,000 sub mark by the end of the year. And we're not going to reach that without you hitting the subscribe button. I'll catch you on the next one.